You know that feeling, that one where you think you're doing everything right, eating healthy, maybe working out, but you still feel kind of stuck?
Yeah, like bloated, sluggish, maybe some brain fog.
Exactly. Low energy, maybe feeling inflamed, and, the scale just isn't moving like you think it should.
It's super frustrating. And the source material we're diving into today suggests it could be your body holding on to things,
Yeah.
specifically these things called lipophilic toxins.
Lipophilic, okay, that means fat-loving, right?
That's it. They're toxins from the environment, things the body finds hard to get rid of. So as a kind of defense mechanism, well, it parks them in your fat cells.
Ah, okay. The source calls it the body's solution to pollution is dilution, trying to keep them away from vital stuff.
Precisely. Keep them out of the main circulation. But, these aren't just inert things being stored. The source talks about specific types, like obesogens.
Linked to weight gain.
Right. And diabetogens, which are connected to things like, well, diabetes risk. So storing them might be a short-term fix for the body, but it doesn't exactly help you feel great or lose weight long-term.
Makes sense. So what's the approach here? The source offers a plan, right?
It does, and that's what's exciting. It lays out a really structured 7-step protocol. It's designed for just 3 days, and it's specifically aimed at helping your body's own natural pathways release these stored toxins.
Okay, 7 steps in 3 days. And the promise is, what? Feeling better pretty quickly.
Yeah, the claim is potential benefits within 72 hours.
Yeah.
Things like better energy, maybe less inflammation, clearer thinking, and possibly making it easier to lose fat.
Interesting. So our goal today is to really walk through this specific 7-step plan, just as it's presented in the source material. We want to understand the why behind each step and pull out the key insights for you.
Exactly. It's all about supporting the body's inherent systems. And the very first place the protocol focuses, step 1, is the liver.
Ah, the liver. The source has that great nickname for it, the soccer mom organ.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I like that too. Because it's juggling, what, like 500 plus different jobs all the time? It's the main filter, the gatekeeper.
And absolutely critical for these fat-loving toxins we're talking about, right?
Oh, completely essential. There's a study mentioned, I think, from Frontiers in Physiology 2021, pointing out how vital liver function is for clearing these specific types of toxins. So, yeah, supporting the liver is really step 1, the foundation.
Okay, foundation set. So how does this protocol say we should support the liver? What are the actual tactics?
Well, there are a few key things. First off, they really emphasize eating bitter foods. You know that old saying, bitter for the liver?
I've heard that, yeah. What's the connection?
It's all about bile. Bitter tastes stimulate your liver to produce more bile.
Okay, and bile is like a digestive juice.
It is, but it's more than that for detox. Bile acts like a detergent. It helps break down fats, yes, but it's also the main vehicle for carrying toxins out of the liver and into your gut so you can get rid of them.
Ah, so it's like the garbage truck for the liver's processed trash.
That's a good way to put it. And the source notes that for a lot of people, bile can get kind of thick and sluggish,
Yeah.
so stimulating good flow is really important.
Got it. So what kind of bitter foods are we talking about? Anything specific?
Yeah, things like lemons, limes are great, artichokes, arugula, radicchio, those leafy bitters.
Hmm.
Apple cider vinegar gets a big mention, like 1 to 2 tablespoons diluted in water before meals.
Okay. Even coffee.
Organic medium roast coffee, yeah. Apparently the chlorogenic acid in it is good for liver stimulation. And there's a neat little tip, too.
Oh, yeah.
Just smelling certain herbs like rosemary, basil, or thyme might also help get the bile flowing. Kind of interesting, right? Sensory input affecting physiology.
That is interesting. So bitter foods. What else for liver support?
Beyond food, the protocol points to specific nutrients or supplements. Choline is one, and TUDCA is the other.
Choline, like from egg yolks. And TUDCA. That's TUDCA.
That's the one. The research cited suggests these are particularly good at supporting liver function, helping you process and remove toxins, aiding bile flow, that kind of thing.
Okay. Now, there's another part to step 1 that sounds a bit different. Taking a binder before bed, like charcoal.
Exactly. Activated charcoal or bentonite clay are the examples given. The idea here ties into traditional concepts like liver time, from Chinese medicine, usually said to be around 2 to 4 a.m.
Right, I've heard of that. The time the liver is supposedly most active.
That's the idea. It's thought to be a peak time for liver detoxification, recycling bile, and potentially dumping toxins into the gut.
So the binder is there too?
To catch them. It acts like the source calls it a catcher's mitt down in your intestines. So as the liver releases toxins via bile, the binder grabs onto them.
Preventing them from just getting reabsorbed back into the body.
Exactly. Taking a couple of capsules right before you sleep puts the binder in the right place at the right time for that potential nighttime toxin dump.
Okay, that's clever. Supporting the processing, then helping the exit strategy. And the last piece for the liver involves removing something.
Absolutely crucial. Removing alcohol.
Mm.
For these 3 days, the protocol is crystal clear, 0 alcohol.
Why is that so critical?
Because alcohol itself is a toxin, and your liver has to prioritize dealing with it. When it's busy processing alcohol, it just can't effectively focus on detoxifying these other stored compounds. It hinders the whole process, and fat burning too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, detox, not retox, as the source puts it.
Makes total sense. Okay, liver support is step 1. What's step 2 in this 3-day plan?
Step 2 is sweating, daily sweating. And this isn't about calorie burn specifically.
Ah, so it's another exit route for toxins, like the liver and gut.
Precisely. The skin is a major organ of elimination. Sweating is a proven way the body pushes toxins out. There was a study, Journal of Environmental and Public Health 2012, that found certain heavy metals, arsenic, cadmium, lead, mercury, were actually more concentrated in sweat than in blood or urine.
Wow, more concentrated. That really says something about sweating as a detox pathway.
It does. Now, the source adds a little caveat. This might be more for toxins currently circulating, maybe less for stuff buried deep in tissues, but it's still considered a really important part of the process for clearing things out.
Okay, so how do they suggest we get this sweat going? Do I need an expensive sauna?
Saunas are definitely an option. Infrared, dry, steam, any of those work. But also things like hot yoga or just regular exercise that makes you sweat. Even a brisk walk if it gets you sweating, or a warm bath or shower afterwards.
So accessibility is there. The main goal is just get a decent sweat on for maybe 10, 20 minutes each day.
That's the target, yeah. 10 to 20 minutes of good sweating.
All right, liver check, sweat check. What's next? Step 3.
Step 3 moves to the lymphatic system. Often overlooked, but it's like the body's internal drainage system.
Right, it cleans up cellular waste and stuff.
Exactly. Cellular debris, pathogens, those environmental toxins we're talking about, the lymph system, mocks them up. But here's the catch. Unlike your blood with the heart pumping it, the lymphatic system doesn't have its own pump.
So it relies on us to move it.
Totally. It needs
that's
physical
right.
movement to circulate properly. The source gives this interesting visual cue. Look at your armpit. Is it kind of puffy, like an arm puff? Or does it have that natural hollow, the armpit?
Huh. And puffiness might mean?
It could suggest the lymph is a bit stagnant or backed up. But really, even if you don't see that, supporting lymph flow is beneficial for everyone doing this.
Okay, so how do we activate it? How do we get the lymph moving?
Several ways mentioned. Rebounding, bouncing on a mini trampoline is apparently fantastic for it.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's good for lymph.
Dry, brushing the skin, always towards the heart is another one. Just getting enough steps in, walking, aiming for that 10,000 steps goal, and deep diaphragmatic breathing.
Breathing moves lymph. How?
The movement of your diaphragm when you breathe deeply acts like a pump for the lymphatic vessels in your torso. Pretty neat.
It is. Any foods to consider here?
Yeah, the source mentions that pasteurized dairy can sometimes slow down lymphatic flow for some people. It suggests maybe opting for raw dairy if you can get it, or sheep or goat milk
Right.
as alternatives if dairy is something you consume.
Good tip. And movement is the big key.
Absolutely. There's a study cited Lymphatic Research in Biology 2009 showing just 20 minutes of light aerobic activity gave a significant boost to lymph flow and immune activity. So yeah, movement is non-negotiable for this step.
Okay, liver, sweat, lymph. Those are very physical. Where does step 4 take us?
Step 4 is all about sleep.
Yeah.
But not just logging hours, specifically getting quality deep sleep and REM sleep.
Why the focus on deep and REM?
This is where it gets really cool. We need to talk about the lymphatic system. Think of it as the brain's dedicated cleaning crew.
The brain has its own drainage system. Seriously.
It does, and it primarily kicks into high gear when you're in deep sleep. The source describes this amazing process. During deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink slightly.
Shrink. Like physically get smaller.
Just temporarily, yeah.
Yeah.
And this creates more space between the cells, allowing the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid surrounding your brain and spinal cord, to wash through the brain tissue more effectively. It flushes out metabolic waste, toxins, amyloid plaques, those kinds of things that build up while you're awake. A study in Science Advances from 2019 really highlighted this process.
So deep sleep is literally like power washing your brain. That's incredible.
It really is. And REM sleep is crucial too.
Right.
For memory, dealing with brain fog, hormone balance, even fat burning.
So it's not just about 8 hours total, it's about the kind of sleep within those hours.
Exactly. Quality over quantity. The source suggests aiming for roughly 90 minutes of deep sleep and 90 minutes of REM sleep each night. Using a sleep tracker can help you get an idea of where you stand.
Okay, aiming for those deep REM targets. Any practical tips from the source on how to improve sleep quality?
Yeah, some solid actionable things like try to finish eating at least 3 hours before you go to bed. Keep your bedroom really dark and cool, around 65 degrees Fahrenheit is often mentioned as ideal.
Makes sense. What about screens?
Big one. Avoid blue light from phones, tablets, computers in the hour or two before bed, or at least wear blue light blocking glasses. And one more interesting suggestion, mouth taping.
Mouth taping. To force nasal breathing.
That's the idea. Nasal breathing increases nitric oxide production, which is linked to better oxygenation and potentially deeper sleep.
Okay, lots to consider for better sleep hygiene. Now, shifting gears a bit for step 5. Cell membranes. Why are they part of a detox protocol?
Because toxins don't just float around harmlessly. They can actually damage the outer lining of your cells, the cell membrane. Think of the membrane as the cell's gatekeeper and communication antenna.
Okay, so if it's damaged,
Well, then the cell can't easily get nutrients in, it can't receive hormone signals properly, and even the mitochondria, the little energy factories inside the cell, can get damaged. This contributes to inflammation, energy problems, weight gain. It's all connected.
so step 5 is about fixing that damage, rebuilding the membrane.
Exactly. And you do that by giving your body the right building blocks, primarily high-quality phospholipids, which are types of healthy fats.
So what foods provide those?
The source highlights things like wild-caught fatty fish, pasture-raised eggs with a yolk, that's where the good stuff is, and grass-fed butter or ghee. There's also mention of potentially supplementing with specific phospholipid oils.
Got it. Add the good fats, and I assume remove the bad ones.
Absolutely critical. The source is really emphatic about removing fats that damage cell membranes. Top of the list are industrial vegetable and seed oils.
Like corn oil, canola, soybean oil, that stuff.
Yeah, corn, canola, cottonseed, sunflower, safflower, soybean, rice bran, grapeseed. It's a long list, and they are everywhere in processed foods.
True. Anything else to remove?
Interestingly, the source also includes fish oil supplements in the remove list for this context, suggesting they can sometimes be inflammatory and recommending getting omega-3s from whole fish instead.
Ah, okay. So remove the bad oils, add the good fats, and the idea is this helps membranes heal quickly.
Yeah, the claim is that making these changes can start helping your cell membranes regenerate even within this 72-hour reset window. It really connects to that saying you're not just what you eat, you're what you absorb. And absorption depends heavily on healthy cell membranes.
Makes sense. Okay, that's step 5. What's step 6?
Step 6 is about minerals. Specifically, getting enough high-quality minerals with a focus on fulvic and humic acids.
Minerals. The source calls them the spark plugs of detox. Why that analogy?
Because minerals are essential cofactors, like little helpers, for so many bodily processes. They're needed for energy production in the mitochondria, and they're critical for the function of your detox enzymes.
Okay, but aren't we getting minerals from food?
Ideally, yes. But the source points out that modern agricultural soils are often depleted of minerals. So the food grown in that soil just doesn't have the mineral content it used to.
Right, so even a healthy diet might be lacking. What are fulvic and humic acids then?
They're described as these really ancient, complex substances derived from decomposed organic matter. They contain a whole spectrum of trace minerals that our bodies need.
So they replenish minerals. Do they do anything else?
Yes, they seem to have a dual role. They provide minerals, but they can also act kind of like blinders, helping to grab onto toxins. Plus, research cited suggests they can improve how nutrients get transported across those cell membranes we just talked about and support immune function too.
Interesting. Like a mineral top-up and a gentle binder combined. And supplementation is the main way to get these.
That seems to be the most practical approach recommended in the source material, yeah.
Okay. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground. Liver, sweat, lymph, sleep, cell membranes, minerals. That's 6 steps focused on the physical body. What's step 7?
Yeah.
And the source says this one is the most important.
It is. Step 7 is think healing thoughts, or as the source playfully calls it, vitamin G.
Vitamin G. Okay, I'm intrigued. Is this the mind-body connection part?
Absolutely. This step really leans into the idea championed by researchers like Dr. Bruce Lipton that our thoughts aren't just thoughts. They have real, tangible effects on our biology.
How does that work? How can a thought affect, say, detoxification?
Well, the concept presented is that every thought generates a kind of frequency or a signal that communicates directly with your cells, even your DNA.
Okay.
And negative thoughts like chronic stress, anger, fear, resentment are said to send signals that trigger inflammatory responses. They can literally tell your body to produce inflammatory proteins, potentially damage DNA, and keep you stuck in that inflamed state.
So negative thinking could actually be blocking detox.
That's the implication. Conversely, positive thoughts and emotions, love, joy, peace, and especially gratitude, send a different kind of signal, one that promotes cellular protection, DNA repair, and actively supports the body's natural detoxification and de-inflammation processes.
Wow. The source mentions we have something like 60,000 thoughts a day. That's a lot of signals.
It is 60,000 opportunities each day to either promote inflammation or promote healing. It really underscores that, quote, you are the most influential person you'll speak to today. It's about your internal dialogue.
And vitamin G stands for?
Gratitude. But specifically the feeling of gratitude. Not just intellectually knowing you should be grateful, but actually cultivating that warm, appreciative feeling in your body.
Why is gratitude singled out as the most important vitamin? Is there research behind that?
Yeah, the source cites some compelling stuff. Studies from UC Davis linking gratitude practices to better blood sugar and blood pressure.
Yeah.
A huge Harvard study on nurses,
Oh, yeah.
nearly 50,000 nurses. It found that those reporting higher levels of gratitude had significantly lower rates of death from all causes, like 9% lower, and specifically 15% lower risk of death from cardiovascular disease.
15%. That's significant.
It really is. And another study mentioned found that caregivers practicing gratitude actually had healthier mitochondria, those cellular energy factories again.
So the feeling of gratitude impacts us right down to the cellular energy level. That's powerful.
It suggests a really profound connection. And the recommendation is pretty simple. Consciously cultivate that feeling of gratitude every day, maybe first thing in the morning, last thing at night.
And the benefits.
Well, as the source points out, vitamin G has no known toxicity. It's completely free, and the positive effects can be felt almost immediately. It really drives home that detox isn't just about flushing physical stuff. It's deeply connected to our emotional and, you could say, spiritual state too.
That's a really interesting perspective to include. Now, this protocol also seems to anticipate some common questions people might have, right?
It does, yeah. Like people wondering how these toxins actually end up stored in fat cells.
Right. We touched on that, the obesogens, diabetogens, the body diluting them for safety. The source even says the body might create new fat cells just to store them.
That's what's suggested, yeah. It prioritizes getting them out of circulation.
Okay, another question. Is there a risk if you release these toxins too quickly, especially if you're losing fat at the same time?
That's a fair question. And yes, as fat breaks down, stored toxins can be released back into the system. But that's exactly why the protocol includes steps like the binder before bed and daily sweating.
To provide clear exit routes for those mobilized toxins.
Precisely, to help escort them out effectively and minimize the chance that they just get reabsorbed.
What about testing? Can you actually test to see if you have these toxins?
The source suggests urine testing is generally the preferred method for assessing body burden, more so than blood or hair. Specifically, they mention a 24-hour urine collection, sometimes done after taking a chelating agent, something that pulls toxins out. But they do stress this usually needs to be done with a qualified practitioner.
Okay, practitioner guidance needed for testing. Can you combine this 3-day reset with other ways of eating, like keto or fasting or maybe carnivore?
Absolutely. The source actually says doing so would likely be even more beneficial. Those approaches tend to be anti-inflammatory already, and being in ketosis, for example, provides a cleaner fuel source which can further support the body's detox processes.
Good to know. What if someone can't easily sweat? Maybe they don't have a sauna or have a condition that limits sweating.
Still worth doing the other steps. The source acknowledges sweating is a valuable pathway, but it's not the only one. Following the liver support, lymph movement, sleep, cell membrane work, minerals, and vitamin G steps will still provide significant benefits. It's not an all-or-nothing deal.
Okay. And then what happens after the 3 days are over? Just go back to normal.
The recommendation is really to try and integrate these habits into your regular routine as much as possible. Things like supporting your liver, moving your body, prioritizing sleep. There's good practices anytime. And this 3-day reset might just be a starting point. The source material also talks about potentially longer protocols, like a 30-day version if someone wants to go deeper.
Got it. So wrapping this up, we've really taken a deep dive into this specific 7-step, 3-day protocol. It's aimed squarely at helping the body deal with stored toxins, those obesogens and diabetogens tucked away in fat cells.
Yeah, we covered a lot. supporting the liver with those bitter foods, specific nutrients, the binder strategy, cutting alcohol, then activating elimination through sweating and getting the lymphatic system moving.
Plus, the crucial role of quality sleep for that brain-cleaning lymphatic system and rebuilding healthy cell membranes by choosing the right fats and avoiding the damaging ones.
And we didn't forget the minerals, the spark plugs like fulvic and humic acids.
Mhm.
And finally, maybe the most profound step, harnessing the power of our thoughts and emotions, specifically cultivating that feeling of gratitude, vitamin G.
And the core promise from the source is that by consciously addressing these key areas, even for just 72 hours, you might really notice a shift in how you feel energy, inflammation, clarity.
It provides a clear framework based on the source material for tackling that feeling of being stuck.
Exactly. Hopefully, this deep dive has given you a structured way to think about it with specific steps, the reasoning behind them, and some tangible ideas to consider if this resonates with you.
A potential roadmap to explore.
So here's something to leave you with, a final thought to chew on. The source explicitly calls step 7 vitamin G, cultivating the feeling of gratitude the most important step in this entire protocol. More important than direct liver support, more important than sweating out toxins, more important than fixing cell membranes. What does that ranking potentially tell us about the deep, fundamental interconnectedness of our minds, our emotions, and our physical health? If managing our feelings is presented as paramount for something as physical as detoxification, how might deliberately cultivating gratitude change not just how we approach a 3-day reset, but maybe our entire approach to health and well-being overall?